You are watching Area DMG.
Okay, this is a very professional version. Hello, everybody. Thank
Hello.
you for coming to whatever this is called. How to play pinball? I gave this talk last year, and I wrote a bunch of notes about what to talk about in the order that I would talk about them, and did not use them at all. So I'm just gonna talk. First, I should ask, how many people in here have pinball machines at home? Some. Okay. You don't count. Maybe count. Okay. And is this the first time at the show for anyone? Okay. All right. Cool. Nice. Anybody want to say why they're here? Like motivationally, or?
I could drink beer and play pinball.
Okay. Great. That's common answer. Okay. So my name is Ryan Wanger. I run Comet Pinball, which sells LED bulbs for pinball machines, but that's not why I'm here. I run leagues and tournaments in Colorado, and I play pretty competitively. I was not into pinball at all until 2013, because I grew up in arcades, but I thought pinball was, when you're not good at pinball, it kind of sucks, and it's expensive, and the ball goes right down the middle of your time, and it seems unfair. It did to me, so I would stick to like Pac-Man and Frogger and stuff. In 2013, I got a couple of arcade games and people in my basement just to like learn how to fix them, and people kept asking me if I had pinball machines. No one was ever interested in arcade games, they would say. Well, my uncle has 3 pinball machines in his basement, or like my friend down the street growing up had this, pinball machine. Do you have any pinball machines? So I started trying to learn to play, and watching, finally saw some people who knew what they were doing, and that made me realize that it's mostly skill, but like with a good mix of randomness also. That makes it good for competition and that kind of stuff. So it's not, these people who play Donkey Kong until the game crashes because they reach level 256. With pinball, to me, it gets more interesting the better I get, rather than like more rote, I guess, like video games see. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna play a little bit and probably just talk about some general things that I'm doing. And I'm actually not exactly a rules expert on KISS, but I picked this because I thought it was kind of a more controllable game than some of the other games I could have slid down the hall and into this room. So I'm gonna just like talk about some general flipper things. I will pause and try and take questions, and then maybe afterwards we can. This is going to be mostly general things and not rule-specific things, although we can talk about a little bit of that too. Because something that I really like about pinball is that there's skills that apply across all games. These general flipper skills that you can learn and you can, implement on any game. And then within each game, there's all have totally different rule set that you can learn to do better. So, all right, so I'm going to play. And if this, I hope you guys can see this okay. And if it turns out that it doesn't work for some reason, feel free to interrupt and speak up. Like it's a little contrasty maybe. And the first thing is that I like, when I first played pinball, when I didn't really know how to play it, I felt like the goal was to fight gravity. Every time the ball falls to the flippers, fling it away because you're going to lose it otherwise. And now I tend to think of it as every time I flip the ball away is a chance to lose the ball. And so if I'm going to do that, I'd like to try and make it as controlled as possible and be shooting for something intentionally. So in some of these things, I can't. It's going to be hard to tell how good of pinball players you guys are. So some things that I say maybe will be obvious, and maybe some things are not. And some people, I operate some games at arcades, and so I'm often like talking to people while they play, or like showing them things. And kind of everyone has is starting from a different place. Some people are flipping both flippers at the same time. Some people are they know that there's rules and they're aiming for things, but they never try and control the ball. And some people have no idea that there's rules. That is a something, like, oh, there are rules to this machine. Probably, yeah, so okay, I'm just gonna play. And also if this is too loud, say something, if it's not loud enough, too bad.
Detroit Rock City!
This game, there's modes that you can choose, but I'm just gonna pick something. So this may go well, and I may get some good control of the ball, or may not. So if I can stop the ball in the flipper, I'm going to do that, because right now I'm going to shoot for the this Star Child shot, which is the left blue shot that's flashing, that goes like through here. If I go in there enough times, I'll get a multi-ball. But every time you're starting from, if you always start a shot from this position, which isn't always possible, but if it is possible, the timing is going to be the same every time, because the ball is like starting from no motion. And so for me to shoot this Star Child shot, it'll be the same timing every single time if I start like this. If the ball is coming in at an angle, flying, or rolling, it's going to be different speeds, different angles. And I don't know, my analogy is like, if you want to hit the ball in left field, would you rather put it on a tee, or would you rather have somebody pitch it, a fastball at you? If you put it on a tee, it's going to be much easier to aim to left field. And then as soon as I miss, I'm like always trying to get control of the ball again. This game, when I'm playing games for the first time or learning games, I want to try and find things that are safe and that I can do repeatedly. So, like what's common in this game, just because I've played this before, is that you can hopefully do this move where you shoot the center shot and just hold the flipper up and bounce it over to the right flipper. And I should be able to do that most of the time. It's possible that sometimes it'll come out a little faster or slower, but knowing things like that is really helpful. So I don't have to fling it away immediately every time it comes over. Since I still kind of want to shoot that Star Child thing on the left, I'm going to do this thing that's called the post pass, which is where you're passing the ball off of, you're flipping really quickly to pass it off of this post. Except it's not quite there. Something like that. Hopefully end up on the other side. That wasn't quite as controlled as I would like to do it, but now I ended up with the shot I was trying to make.
I wouldn't if I were you.
And sometimes things like that. All right.
Ryan, is there a plunger skill shot in there?
This game, I don't think really has a skill shot actually. And what I was doing just there is what we call short plunging. So, also I'm just going to be saying lots of things. So, and I will probably revisit some of these instead of try not to. I'm just saying because they happen. But on some games, so in this game, because you plunge and it goes into the pop bumpers, that's dangerous. Like the pop bumpers. Come back a little. Older games, like 70s and 80s games, don't have a lot of safe shots. So like maybe you're supposed to shoot a drop target, and that's like the main thing in the game. And when you shoot it, it's going to ricochet and go in. Modern games have a lot more safe shots. So every time I hit either of these ramps, for example, the ball will return safely to my line. It might be going fast and I don't have control, but it would never drain it. Like you shoot a ramp, you make a successful shot, you get the ball back. So in this game, so like in modern games, the pop bumpers are very dangerous because that just creates a lot of randomness, and also the slingshots, which are the triangle things above the flipper. So those which just throw the ball back and forth are also really dangerous and create a lot of randomness. So I'm always and in modern games there are not a lot of times where you're really incentivized to shoot pop bumpers for any meaningful points. It's there to create randomness. If there were no randomness in the game, good players would play for a very long period of time. So I was short plunging there, which means not plunging all the way, so that it would not go into the pop bumpers and it would come back to the right side like that. Maybe that, that's not something that you necessarily need to do, but some games it matters more than others. My Adams family, I watch people all the time, they plunge into pop-uppers shoot it right down the middle, and then they say, what the hell, this game sucks. And then the next ball, they step up and do the exact same thing. So, I totally understand that tendency, but a lot of things, although this is physics and it's like the real life, but a lot of things will happen repeatedly in this game. So, you do something and something bad happens, remember what that was, and do it differently next time. So I'm going to keep trying to shoot this star shot. So what I just did there was a bounce pass, and which is just not flipping. And that was like the biggest, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to try and do this pass back again. It's a little more difficult than I thought. So I didn't have shots that way. Alright. So that was a short plunge, and I moved the machine and I actually got 2 dangers, which was a really stupid thing to do at that moment. So again, anytime, I'm always just trying to get control of the ball again, instead of flinging it around. And so bounce pass like that. If I didn't do that, I was going to have to fling it away, and it's going to be very hard to control the shot that way. So bounce pass or a dead flip is just not flipping the ball, and again, that was the biggest leap in my game plan. I started doing that as consistently as I could, and a lot of people, especially like when you put quarters in the machine, so it's easier to do at home because it's free and it costs you nothing to put quarters into a machine. I get it that it feels like you're gonna feel stupid at first if you try to do that and you lose the ball because you paid money and then you just didn't do something when you could have and you let it drain. But as you play more and practice that skill, you'll notice times when it's appropriate to do and times when it's not appropriate to do, and some of that is just trying different things. And if you never try it, you're not going to learn when it's safe. But anytime the ball's going to hit the middle, kind of anywhere in the middle 3/4 of the flipper, it'll be safe to just let it bounce because it's not going to go. It can't go through the flipper. It has to go through the flipper and go.
It's really hard to not want to flip it. Like that's one of the things that he yells at me the most about is just let it lay there and it'll bounce itself. You don't have to do anything, and trusting that is one of the biggest issues.
Alright, let's see if I can still having trouble that post pass. So sometimes you give it a little bump like that because I didn't think it had enough speed to get it way over. And I was able to bounce it over. So I'm trying to still need one more shot at that. Okay, so there I gave it a little bit of a nudge. This is a common thing that you guys may not know, but moving the machine is totally a legitimate thing to do. And there's a tilt bob in the machine, which is like a swinging weight. It's like the shape of a cone, and it's metal and it hangs inside the metal ring. And so when you move the machine, the cone swings inside the ring. And it hits the edge of the ring. That's in modern games that's a danger or like a tilt warning. And on your third one, the flipper will die. That's the end of your ball. You won't get your bonus. On older machines, they don't give you warnings. It's just a tilt. So what was happening there is the ball was coming in at what I thought was in a dangerous way. That maybe it was going to hit the top of the slingshot. I don't know if I'm pointing the right way, but hitting the top of the slingshot and then go into the out lane. And so I wanted to like put force on the ball to like bump it away from that area. This, if you can, you'd like to not let the ball decide on its own which way it's going to go to the in lane. which is the in lane feeds back to your flipper, or the out lane, which goes out and loses the ball. The final thing I'll say about that is that you're not trying to, when you are moving the machine, you're not trying to move the ball. And I have thought this for a long time, that that's what the goal was to move the ball. The ball is going to continue its path. Relative to this room, the ball is going to continue its path no matter what you do to the machine because, well, I mean maybe kind of, but there's not enough friction between the ball and the playfield. So like you move the machine, the ball's just going to keep the same trajectory. It's not going to change trajectories. What you're trying to do is move a part of the machine that's solid into the path of the ball to make it go in a different direction. Does that make sense?
Do you use nudging mainly around trying to not let your ball drain, or would there be other times that it's good?
Yeah, I think the easiest place to start is when the ball's coming to the top of the slingshots. So these two things. If a ball's gonna come land on the top, especially like at an angle, it's just nudge the machine forward so that you're pushing the machine into the ball and backward, just way out of that area. There's also like a post over here between the in lane and out lane. So if I could tell that one was going straight into the out lane, that would be another place to like move that post into the lane. But most of the important and useful nudging will happen when the ball is like down lane. There may be cases where it's higher, like some games you shoot a ramp halfway up and then it comes straight back down the middle. If that happens to you once, the next time it happens you should do something about it. And that might be like doing that. So if I were going to shoot this right ramp and it went part way up, and I thought it was going to drain back down the middle, something like this, where because I want to move this sort of side to side to rattle the ball instead of putting it down. Yeah.
So if you're one of the out lanes, you feel like it's going in there. So you're nudging it before it's even hit the out lane to start bouncing. You're getting onto it early.
Hopefully, I mean, I'm definitely. This is a thing that I don't think anybody thinks they're an expert at, and I mean, there's a. It's probably not the strongest part of my game, but the two most common things are. I think a ball is going to skip off of the top of the slingshot and go into the out lane, or it's going straight into the out lane. And so, there's two, on this game, on this side, there's two posts there, and each has a rubber on it. And between them, there's this gap. And so, if I can move one side or the other of that gap, if it looks to me like the ball's going right through it, then moving one side or the other, usually it's the bottom side that you're gonna move sort of up and out into that path. So, but actually, probably the best answer, or a better answer to that question is, you asked if I do it before. If I start nudging and the ball is just rolling across the playfield and it's not about to contact anything, then the nudging isn't doing anything. It's just sliding like a real slick surface underneath the ball, and the ball's gonna keep going. So, yeah, you're moving a solid, like a solid post or something into the path of the ball. I mean, another thing is, like you said, if it keeps going, if you notice a ball doing the same thing, going the same way, is what you did before that moment. So, like, I don't know if you know Funhouse. It seems like you should be shooting Rudy's mouth all the time. A lot of times, you hit his mouth, and the way it comes out is it comes straight to the left out lane. So then you really got to, that shot has to be really valuable at that moment for me to risk, if I know that it's going to be a dangerous return. It's a valuable shot and I hope I make it, or I know that making it and it still might drain. Maybe there's something I can do. Maybe I can nudge as the ball is curving out of his mouth, use that wall up there to push it into a different trajectory. Did that answer?
Yeah, it does.
So we'll see if we can get, okay, so now, you got some hits up there. Okay, so that was enough hits up there that, this is just because I played this game in bed and I watched some tutorials, like I've talked to other people, but so there's this purple love gun multi-ball light that's over here by the ramp, and that is now lit because I've shot it enough times into Star Shell. I'm not sure, in fact, actually it says it right here, love gun multi-ball. Collect star targets in the Star Shell area to enable love gun multi-ball, and so if I make the shot, then I will start multi-ball. No pressure. And I find this to be a pretty difficult shot, actually. It's a very narrow ramp. And here I'm in a short plunge because, oh no. Okay. So I had 2 tilt warnings there, which I forgot about. And I was trying to not have it plunge in the platform first because that's dangerous. And I short plunged. And then I was afraid that it was going to hit the slingshot on the way down. So I hit the side so that the ball would come off to the flipper and got me hurt.
And some tilts are different than other tilts.
Yeah. So the cone that's in there can be raised or lowered. And so, like for me, on my games on location, I set it so just the tip of the top of the cone is inside the ring, which means you can swing it a lot before it hits the edge. But if you want to, if people are abusing your machines, or you want them to be more difficult or make more money, maybe you raise the cone so that there's only a couple millimeters on either side of it and to me, that takes away. Sometimes you find that in big tournaments, they want people that have shorter game times, so you make it easier to tilt. But it also, to me, takes away some of the skill. That is some of the skill of playing pinball, is moving machines.
So if I'm player 1 and I get tilt 1, and then he comes up, and then I go, now my turn comes up, does it remember I have 1?
It does not remember.
Okay.
Actually, weirdly, Wizard of Oz, by default, shipped with 3 tilt warnings per game instead of per ball. It's the only game I know of that has done that. And most people change the setting so that it goes by per ball. So with everything, there's some kind of asterisk of like weird case, but 99.9% of all our games, it doesn't matter.
Per ball.
Yeah, and because it's like a physical mechanism. If you were playing right after me and right there, you might want to wait a little bit, so that because it could still be swinging. And particularly older games, like the more they've been used, those parts get like worn and polished, and they'll sometimes they can swing for like 3 or 4 minutes. A lot more slow down. So, and that again like depends on what the stakes of your game are. And if you're just playing with friends, maybe you don't want to be a jerk and stand there with a stopwatch. I played in a tournament with a guy who, this is what he did. At any time anyone like made any sort of move on the machine and ended their ball, he would walk up and he would stand there. For 3 minutes. Wow. Every like 5 or 10 seconds, he would just watch. He was no good player. He also wore gloves. I don't know. I love the gloves. Easy to make fun of. Okay, I'm just gonna actually try and do the same thing again, and maybe I can do that with the others. Of course, like knowing what to do in the game is good, so you know what to shoot for. I was talking about like shots being dangerous or shots being safe. The other thing is the fewer number of shots you can make, the better. Because every time you take a shot, that's a chance to lose the ball. And so if I can get a certain number of points or a certain objective with less shots than more shots, that's better. Some of that is like controlling and taking more controlled shots. And some of that might be, there's games where maybe you can get something faster by doing a thing like that. Oh, so I might have actually caused that there. The ball is coming straight from the Star Child like into the in lane, and I whittled it, and then it rattled the ball between those 2 rubbers and out. It's hard to know in that scenario if I won't know, like, would doing nothing have led to a different outcome? Possibly. But what did happen wasn't good, so you're going to nudge the machine and get it over to the flipper. I'm still aiming for this Star Child. So I wasn't able to save it there. That's a really difficult thing to do, but it can be done. I didn't move the machine very far, but where I felt it was coming straight down the middle. And you can slide the whole machine. This depends on the tilt and what you do away with. But the gap between the flippers sometimes feels huge, but it's really only like a quarter of an inch or less on either side of the ball. So if you can move the machine half an inch to the side as the ball comes down the middle, you would be moving the flipper into the path of the ball where it wasn't previously. I don't know how many times I've successfully done that in my life. Probably a dozen. And I think it's a really difficult move, but it's something that can be done. Okay. So sometimes, I've caught that. There's times where, so the ball was bouncing onto the flipper, and I waited for it to rise enough that I could lift the flipper underneath it and catch the ball without flinging it away. So if I had lifted the flipper earlier or later there, I would have flung it away. But it bounces and then you come up underneath it. And all of these things. I'm not sure what should have done there. Oh, that was pretty well already. Alright, I'm going to try to keep talking about stuff. Actually, I don't know. Does anyone have any questions? I want to get into multi-ball and some stuff there, but yeah.
Does wiggling back and forth cause a lot of pressure on those legs, or are they pretty soft, especially for older machines?
If the legs are loose, I wouldn't worry about. Okay, so inside there's a metal plate that has threads through it. So I think, I guess the worst case is that if the bolts are tight, it shouldn't be a problem. If they're loose and it allows a lot of wiggle where it's sort of the legs are staying in place on the ground, but the machine is still moving. Does that make sense? Where maybe this is kind of happening where the leg is working into the, that could be damaging the core of the machine. There are definite, people who play games, have games at home and they like to take care of them, I think are probably maybe also people who nudge less sometimes because they're worried about the condition of their games. Games were made to be played by tons of people, and the fact that and the way the tilt is designed in a way to let you do something and get away with it, as part of pinball. It could be designed in a different way where as soon as you do anything besides pressing the flipper, you just have your game to protect the game. But I have games from 70s, 80s, 90s, and I haven't run into a situation where I felt like my game had been damaged by the legs. Like I'm saying, it's better to have them tight, and if they're loose, then you could be digging into the wood a little bit. And there's this metal plate inside that's maybe it costs you $10 or $20 to buy a new one, and so that's also not a thing. If the threads are worn enough, either on the plate itself, you can replace that, and that other something tighter. There's also protectors that you can put under here for protecting the cabinet artwork. Because I don't know, if you've taken legs off a game, you'll see usually the art right under this area is worn off, or chipped, or smeared, or whatever. So you can buy plastic or felt protectors and put it in. I don't worry too much about that. And I've never had a game damaged in any meaningful way from having it being played in public. So that was the moment where, in a lot of modern games, there's a ball save period at the beginning where this rock again was shooting. And so maybe you get 5 or 10 seconds, and if the ball drains in that period of time, it's going to give you a fresh ball. And so it did, and then instead of I didn't want to plunge into pops again. So I was able to plunge faster than the game automatically plunged. And now I have the ball safer. Bounce, pass it over. And there, I should have done something different on the right side. And going back over again. Talking about like safe shots and dangerous shots. On this game, the Gene's head is like a pretty dangerous shot. Gene shot is a pretty dangerous head. Gene's head is a pretty dangerous shot. There's a spinning thing inside of it, so when you shoot in there, it spins in on its way out. And when you lock balls, sometimes it will swing them back out, often straight down the middle. Here, there's going to be a lock, I believe, and a short plunge. But that's not really safe in the end, because now I'm going to see shots. This is a great demonstration. Alright, I'm gonna play a game.
33.
33. Alright, any other questions for me? I'm going to do something different this time. Okay. This time I'm going to go for Gene's head, which I was just saying was dangerous. So there's these green lock targets on either side, and there's a multi-ball there after you. So probably I could have done something about that, where it seemed like the ball was getting inside of this one shot and bounce into reality, and it did. I'm afraid of these tilts that happen. I'm just gonna let that bounce across, and like there's no easier move in pinball than not football and getting in control on the other side. So that was the second. That was the second lock there. So it's a really common thing in games for green to represent locks. In modern games where the goal to start a multi-ball, you'll lock 3 balls. Since I hit both of those locks, the green is now lit. And again, this is something that is. I had a ball save over there, which is like keep together on the ball. And I'm actually not sure what qualifies those in this game. Yeah, I got both. Oh, I did. So many times you can just not play. Now hard. There's a lot. And normally I don't play the game this way because I feel like these are dangerous shots, but it's not working out for me to start multi-ball. Trying to pass it over. Oh yeah, this is something I haven't talked about. So, most people's inclination is to shoot across the playfield always, and that's lovely. I often try and backhand shots when I can, which means to shoot to the same side of the playfield. So I have it on the right here. If I were to shoot the right ramp, that would be a backhand. I happen to know that it's very difficult, or possibly impossible in this game, to backhand the right ramp just because of the angle. But like I can backhand the lock targets and hit the head like that. And okay, so I was able there to like, ball was going to drain. I was able to like rattle it a little bit and keep it from draining, but I didn't get enough of it. That's a really difficult move. to like rattle the ball back and forth between the walls, but this can happen where you're like you start to rattle and you can, instead of the ball going down, like you can start to bounce it back up and out. I'm not sure that anybody, like even the best players can do that reliably, but they can do it, and there's you know, there's videos of this competition. It's really amazing. With backhands, which means like shooting to the same side of the playfield, often the shot may be a little bit more difficult, like in that it's a little bit narrower of a shot. But when you but it's safer when you miss. So what just happened there was like I shot from the left and I hit one of those stand-ups, and because this forehand, like to the outside, those shots, the ball is moving faster, and it's a harder shot. So when you hit something and miss, it comes back at you faster, and it probably comes back at you in a more dangerous angle. Whereas if I'm making a shot from the right, the ball is going to be earlier on the flipper when I shoot, which means the flipper has less power, like at the heel versus the tip of the flipper. So like I would go up and hit this thing, and it's probably going to come over this way. Whereas like from here, it's even faster and it's going to come straight down. So I'll try and make backhand shots, even though they're harder, even though it's a narrower shot, because I know that the return is going to be safer if I miss. And of course, the ultimate is you just never miss, and then you don't have to worry about it, but you do that. Alright, I'm going to try and hit this right knee target for my final lock. That time I didn't do anything because I keep draining over there every time I try and make a move. And now I'm going to try backhand for a lock. And a multi-ball, finally. So usually in modern games, you will get a ball saving period in the beginning. This rock again between the flippers is flashing. That means any ball that I lose right now, I'm going to get back. So I will kind of just flail around wildly because I'm not worried about recovering. Eventually, that timer runs out. So in a moment here, I will start my backhand. So I try and get control of these balls. So actually, I have 4 balls right now, and the ball 6, so I'm just going to keep switching back. Once I get down to 3 balls, I'm going to try and get control. Alright, okay. So a lot of times in multi-ball, it actually makes sense. Well, we'll say a lot of the top players will play multi-balls in a controlled fashion like this, where they're just cradling some balls and shooting the other one. Because, so right now, again, I don't know the rules super great in this game, but it seems like there's only 2 important shots right now. The right ramp and center ramp. And so having 3 balls is great, but if I'm just flinging them around without being able to aim, maybe I'll get maybe I'll hit one of those things, but it's probably going to be easier for me to just take a break like this and just shoot one shot at the center. With 4 ball, I won't do this with 4 balls because you can't, it's difficult to get 3 balls cradled on one side. And cradling 2 on each side doesn't help you because you need to be flipping some of them. So this is like a classic thing is putting 2 on one side and 1 on the other like this. And then the benefits are I can take a break, see what I need to shoot 1 ball at that. Often when there's multiple balls going around, you'll make a shot that looks good and it'll just collide with one of the other balls that's bouncing around. And that's difficult to prevent. And you can also use balls that you have cradled to save other balls from draining, possibly. So if I were to shoot up that center ramp and not get all the way, and it starts coming right back down the middle, I can let go of the left flipper and try and fire those balls into the one that's about to drain. And it's going to create some chaos, but I know that I'm just going to lose that ball anyway. So that's actually my favorite. When people ask my favorite shot as a pinball, that's what I say. Shooting a ball into another one intentionally to prevent it from draining. Alright, so there you go. Alright, so I was trying to outline ball save, which is why I got that on the back. Alright. Now it looks like all that matters is the right ramp. Okay, great. And now, oh actually, in this game, when the backstage pass is lit, which is the scoop, it's like that's an add-a-ball. So unless I already picked up the add-a-ball earlier, which I don't think I did, but it's possible because there was a lot going on, that might give me an add-a-ball, which would give me a third ball and more. Actually, I think I may have already used that. Alright, so I'm just going to go for the right ramp here. And then sometimes when you, so if I didn't have a ball here, that one coming down the ramp, I wouldn't have been able to just cradle it like this by holding up the flipper because it would have too much speed and I'd have to fling it away or try and pass it over to the other side. But with that other ball there, they collided and now they're just kind of hanging out. It's gonna, now to get back into a useful position here, I'm gonna try cradle separation, which is flipping a little, like a small flip to get the first ball to bounce up and come back down and hopefully land on the other side. See if I do this. Something like that. Okay. It's fine. We'll give it another try. There we go. Now I'm trying to hit this, I think I'm trying to hit this roving red shot here. And that cradle ball helped me out there too. So I'm trying to time this shot with it. So close. There we go. Is that double jab? And there we go. So again, that was just like, I don't know the rules super well, but that sucks. So I was just following the lit shots there, which I discussed 50 things beyond what shooting lit shots is about, but you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you can't go wrong. Just shooting the thing that looks the most pretty. Any questions at this moment? Okay. What time? I might, okay, so maybe I will take the glass off and do a little bit of nudging where I can set that up. I didn't have the keys last year, so I couldn't do that, and I haven't tried it before. We'll see how it goes, but it can be difficult to explain situations for nudging without setting them up, because how do you shoot the ball into the alley? Now, I mean, this is a little rulesy, but in this game, there's nothing really lit right now. It has no box. But over here is like backstage passes flashing and new track. That's in this game that will start a new mode. So a very common thing with modern games is basically if I shoot around right now and just shoot things, I'm not gonna get meaningful points. So getting back into a mode is gonna mean like I collect a lot of points as I'm trying to do something else, like getting towards the ball, and trying to combine. Most modern games will let you have a mode running and then start multi-ball, and that's way more valuable than just starting multi-ball. I'm gonna say maybe in the 90s, multi-balls were the valuable thing. And now, the last couple of years, games have been designed more in a way that modes are sometimes more valuable, and multi-ball is just like a vehicle for lasting longer in modes, or being able to make more mode shots, or like, I don't know, you've probably played games maybe where a modern game, you start a multi-ball and the jackpot's worth like 100,000 points, 200,000 points in a game where like you're scoring millions. And so, it's a good thing to know how to get into multi-balls, but also knowing whether they're valuable or whether you really want to start a mode first. So, alright. I'm just going to let this go. Take class. Does anybody have any like game specific questions or?
So just the general would be like, if you're getting a game to learn how to be a better player, I mean, obviously the electromechanicals feel, no, I don't. But electromechanicals feel totally different than games. But to me, as a novice, games from the early, maybe Black Knight on, feels pretty similar to me. Okay. But what would be a good era to get a game to learn how to play?
I would say, I mean, a lot of people will. A lot of times the eras are broken down into EM or electromechanical, which is when you have score reels, the term, and something that's unique to EMs is that they don't save state. So like when your ball, especially on multiplayer EMs, when your ball is over and it comes back to you in your next ball, it resets everything. It doesn't remember which targets you had down. So there's no progress that you can carry from ball to ball. Like at the end of the 70s, solid state games came out, which are now games that have a computer and then essentially with code, microchips that they can remember where you were and return the game to the state that you left it in. So, some of the drops were down or some were not, or you had blocked the ball or whatever. And the rules got out that it enabled them to do a lot more things with the rules. And then modern games or DMD games probably started around like Adam's Family, 91, 92, where now you have like a bigger screen that can convey more information and even more advanced rules. I would say in the 80s there are not many games that have like modes as we have modes in today's games. So there's that. With EM games, usually like you can tell somebody in 30 seconds or less, what to do. Like shoot down these drops, spinner lights, and then shoot the spinner. And keep shooting the spinner as long as it's like in the like you're saying Black Knight, that might be like, all right, you lock 3 balls, and then when you're in, there's no jackpot in that game, is there? You get triple scoring when you're in a 3-ball multi-ball. Or a game like high speed. Hit these green targets, then the yellow ones like hit those, then the red ones like hit those, then shoot off the ramp, starts a multi-ball, and then in multi-ball you need to hit the ramp, and then after that you, my answer I guess is, I think some of it depends on maybe your price range. So if you can afford, if you can't spend more than $1,000, then you might have an EM that's one of these old games. You will learn, a lot of people will say that you might learn nudging skills even better on older machines. So, and this is I was kind of mentioning this earlier, but like in the older games, there's often there might not be any safe shots at all. The things, you complete the objective that the game is trying to get you to do, and then you possibly get punished for it, And I'm glad that games have evolved to where that's not so much the case. But you can have a 5-second ball, and there's nothing you can do about it. In this game, like it's going to give you a ball save, you can ball back, and the geometry is just such that it's like safer to do everything. So with older games, you might learn nudging a little better, but it might be also harder to notice consistency, possibly, because I always compare it to poker a little bit, where like it's a mixture of luck and skill, and like long term, the more skilled player is gonna win out. But in one hand, like you can get just screwed unfairly in any number of ways, and just make sure this is. So EMs can definitely be more frustrating for sure. And then like the more modern you get, sort of the more controllable the game is. With modern games, I think you might learn better like flipper skills, like cradling the ball and stopping it. And a lot of times on EMs, it's more difficult to do.
Okay.
So here, like you shoot a ramp and it returns to you safely. So learning what to do when that happens, and then how to get the ball under control, you're probably going to make faster progress on that. And then same with pools, like you'll be able to, like we said, you can learn everything you need to know about an EM in 1 minute in terms of the rules, but don't ask me how to play Wizard of Oz unless you have like 15 minutes. And I actually think that it's fun. What time is it? Sorry, 10 minutes. I actually think that like some modern games maybe have gone too far. I mean, maybe not too far. It's like you want the games to be playable on their location, but then there's people at home who play them, thousands of plays. And so, but there's plenty of. It's not in here. Oh no, somebody might tell me is. But one of the best player in his time zone. I have been noticing recently that he has a shocking lack of rules knowledge in some cases on things that like I know more about than he does, but he's just better at all of the other skills of ball control and nudging and all that stuff. And so it does concern me a little bit when like top players in the world don't know some rule about KISS, or a game that they own even. They're getting very detailed. So black diamond. So it's gonna be loud now when I flip, but are you guys gonna be able to see? I should go the other way. So like what I was saying about nudging is the most common place to start is balls coming down to the top of the slingshot, and as it hits right here, you're gonna like shove the machine back into the ball, and you don't really care at first where it goes. You just want to send it away because you don't want this ball to like decide to do this and skip into the outlane. Same thing off of this even and skip out, and here this is like a pretty small gap. You probably can't see it all, but again, maybe like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. So it doesn't take that much to move a part of the machine into the ball if you can tell that it's in danger. And some of that is experience, and it happens quickly, especially on modern games. And there was a long period of time for me where I knew that I needed to nudge, and I couldn't signal fast enough to my body, like I need to do something, and then I would move the machine and it was already. So this game over here, there's a rubber up here, and there's no rubber on the bottom one. When there's no rubber, that's tougher, I guess. I mean, if there were rubber on it, the gap would be smaller, and the rubber can bounce the ball away better than just a single post. So I'll try and I have a ball coming in there, just shoving the machine up, and so that was a tilt point. So that was a little bit too hard, and especially in like a competition or a game I've never played before. Ideally, I try to remember like how hard that was, and maybe that was a little too hard. Dial it back. It was also only one, and so if I really needed to, I could do that as long as I remember. So just like pushing and that was when you can see it kind of like hit the right side, and then instead of skipping over, because because I shoved it back and went up and into this thing. And so it's going to be difficult to direct the ball to an exact spot, and you don't want to do that. It's just like get the ball away, and it's going to roll up, and then you'll be able to do something. It'll be easier to control that ball and not as dangerous as there. Any questions about that? Okay, my final two advanced things, which both took me a very long time to learn how to do, and I'm still not perfect at them. One is drop catch, which is something like that, where you basically you lower the flipper as the ball comes to it to try and just get the ball to stop where it is. So in that scenario, this is a fine flipper to do from. So in this scenario, if I had just held the flipper up, it might have gone like this, and then up into this, and then maybe the slingshot, or maybe down, or whatever. But something like gosh, it's difficult. Something like that. That was a good one. The place where I had a really hard time doing that, and the place where I first started really getting it was a scenario where is the left flipper doing? Yeah, is where I would try and send. My thought was instead of trying to land the ball on the flipper, I would try and send it up the inline. So instead of this thing where it comes in, hits this because I'm holding it, bounces over here, and now I've lost it. It's like where something like that, and dropping the flipper as it comes in, and to send the ball up. And then it's still moving, but maybe I can do that to put it back under control. And so as I got more comfortable doing it like that, then I started doing it as the ball was further and further out instead of right at the heel. That makes sense. Questions? Okay. And the final thing is a live catch, which is like if you have two cars driving at each other at the same speed and they collide, they're not going to move. They're just going to stop right there. If you have one moving into one that's stopped, they're going to hit and they're both going to go in the other direction. So, in fact, I remember last year describing what a live catch was, and then saying, I don't know how people do this, because I can't do it, and I tried. And finally, I had a friend who just was like, why aren't you practicing this every time? And so I just started trying to do it all the time, over and over again. I finally started to get it. I'm still not perfect, but, so that would be kind of close there. I may not be able to do this at all. Just not come in. Close-ish, but that's kind of okay. It's actually sometimes, you have a ball screaming around, or I was trying to do it as it came off of here, where I did this. So that was, if the timing is wrong, you'll just fling the ball away. If the timing is right, you'll kind of stop the ball, hopefully just on that. Yeah, see, this is that demonstration. It's close. But there's very few people who do that reliably. It makes you look like a badass for sure. But it's sometimes useful. The thing I was talking about with the drop catch and sending it up in lanes. The point in which I was finally convinced that was a great thing to be doing was in multi-ball, when you have balls on one foot, a ball on one flipper, or two balls on the other flipper, and one's coming to the other side. You can fling it away, or you can try and drop catch, send the ball up in a controlled way, and then the shot.
It's fine.
It's fine.
What are our top tips?
Okay, the number one thing is controlling the ball whenever you can, which means bringing it to rest, I would say, and shooting for something intentionally, and then drop catch, or sorry, bounce passing. So, the easiest, quickest, the way that's helpful to control the ball in most scenarios is bounce passing. And that is, just do that, don't flip. Let it bounce over the other side, lift up the other flipper. And a lot of people, when I start explaining this, it bounces over and they immediately flip it away. Let it bounce over and don't do anything. See what happens. And lift the flipper up when the ball's not there, and it'll come to rest. Worst case scenario, maybe it goes up and it's moving fast, and then you flip it away. But I mean, every time that's going to work. If it's going to hit the, maybe it's dangerous at the very tip, or at the heel, where it can hit the metal and the rubber at the same point and then drain. But coming from the same side is probably like that. It's a little more difficult to know when it's okay. But coming from the opposite side, crossing from one side to the other, it's gonna that's gonna be fine every time. Now you might find a game where you're playing, it's not your game, or maybe it is your game, and it hits the flipper and just dies and falls down the middle. That means that the flippers probably need to be rebuilt. There's a plastic piece that holds the shaft of the flipper, and if it's loose and there's too much play in there, then the flipper will give a little bit when it hits. And so, on any modern game that's well taken care of, you'll be able to bounce pass like that. If you play a game and it doesn't, it just dies, then you can't do it on that game. But that's something that probably is not intentional and can be fixed by somebody redoing the flipper.
Cool.
That's all. So if you see me, if you're out there and you see me, or I'm at the we have a booth, there's a comic booth. If you want to come over and ask more questions, or ask me to play a game with you, we can play together, or talk over your shoulder, or can talk about rules to specific games. I'd be happy to do that. And, I'm doing this again tomorrow, but it's going to be similar things. So, and if you go employ any of these things and you feel like it works, then come back and tell me that it works. And finally, I maybe should have said it at the beginning, you will probably get a little worse when you first start trying to do this stuff. So you will make mistakes, and then you'll be want to quit. You're this is stupid, I'm worse at pinball now. But you're going to go down a little bit as you learn how to do these things, and then you're going to go way up once you start figuring it out. And it's all just, some people say I'm not good at pinball, and that's because you just got to play more and work on your skills. Thanks for coming.
All right.